Begin the current Daf in Mesechta Yevamos Daf Chavdal. Begin 9 lines down at the top of the Yaman. We will continue the halacha of the next Mishnah, which continues on the theme of obviously the topic of this parak, this Mesechta of the mitzvah of Yibam, and exactly the order. Who is the one that we prefer to do the Yibam? Should correspond to Chazek Nacheskel to any type of Daf. I'm joining today's Daf. Something we're discussing today's Daf are Ein Mikra Yoytze Midei Pshutei. Generally, when you have a pasuk, although you might have a midrashic interpretation, but it always has the simple understanding of it too. Alnis is a woman who cannot have children. Sris is a man who cannot have children. Is the concept that although the firstborn gets a double portion, he does not take what's fit to come as what is already in possession. Sometimes the father is owed money or he's going to get certain royalties, but at the time of the death he doesn't have it yet. The firstborn does not get a portion in those two. So we begin the current Daf. Says the Mishnah, mitzvah begadol liyam. The mitzvah is that the oldest should do the mitzvah. But if the minor goes first, zacha, he merits. That's the halacha of our Mishnah. With that, the Gemara begins to bring the source for that and other halachas from the pasuk. Tarman the Brisa. Pasuk says in Devar. The pasuk is v'hoya habachar, and there's going to be the firstborn. Asher Taled, the pasuk there continues in its entirety, which we're going to expound on many of the words. Asher Taled, which is going to give birth to, Yakum Hashem Ochav HaMeis, he'll take the name of his brother who passed away. And his name will not be erased from the Jewish people. Now, the simple understanding of the pasuk, as we'll see in the Gemara's discussion, seems to be that it's talking about the child. The brother died without any children. So his brother marries his widow. And then it sounds like the previous pasuk was saying that he should do Yibam, and then this pasuk says, okay, the firstborn that she's going to give birth to will take the name of the departed father, and that his name will not be erased because the son will take over that name. However, the Gemara darshans this differently. Says the Bryce. So what does it mean b'haya b'char? Mikan, from here you see, shemitzvah b'gadol yabam. There's a mitzvah that the oldest, the b'char, should do the mitzvah of Yibam, because as Rashi explains, the pasuk right before said, it was saying that the brother-in-law, the Yavam, should take the widow and do Yibam to her. And the next words are, V'haya b'char. Who is this V'yibma that's doing Yibam to her? That's the firstborn. So it's not going on the firstborn child of the union of this now brother that took over the marriage. No, it's the firstborn brother of the one who passed away. He's the one who does Yibam. And when the pasuk continues, Asher Taled, it's telling you that the Yevama from the previous pasuk should be fit to have children, which is proud la'aylan. The Shen Yeled is that exclude an islandess of someone who cannot have children, that she will not be included in the heter of Yibam. And when the pasuk continues, that Yakum Hashem Achav, so again, based on the midrashic interpretation, Yakum Hashem Achav is not the son of the new father. Rather, it's that the Yavam will take the place for his brother, Lanachala. Meaning he's going to take his departed brother's inheritance and he's not going to divide it with the rest of his brothers. Because ultimately this brother is not taking from the father because he's dead. This Yavam will take over the Nachla of his brother. Says the Brisa, do you really say that talking about regarding inheritance, meaning that Yakum is in reference to the Yavam taking over the Nachla of his departed brothers? Or maybe talking about it as the simple understanding of the pasuk is that it's talking about the son that's born to that new union. They were saying over that he's going to take the place of the brother L'Shem, meaning that if the name of the one who departed was Yosef, Karnas Yosef, you call him after not his father really, it's really his mother's first husband, that you'll call him Yosef. If it's the one who the brother who passed away was Yechanan, Karnas Yechanan, call him Yechanan. Maybe that's what it means, Yakum Hashem Achim, which it's very hard to really translate that because it's and that's actually why we'll see we actually don't even use that, because it's not Shem Achiv, it's really Shem Aviv. But it meaning the father of him basically would be for his brother to call his son that name. Says the Gemara, no. The Brisa says, Nemekan Yakum Hashem Achiv. Here it says in this pasuk that he's going to take the place of his brother's name. But then there's a pasuk over there in Bereshis when it talks about the brothers of Menashe and Ephraim. It says, Al Shem Achem Yikar B'Nachalasim. On the name of their brothers, they're going to have the inheritance because the Yosef had more than Menashe, possibly more than Menashe Ephraim. And we're saying that the brothers will be based on the Menashe Ephraim. Regarding what did we say over there, it's the shame of their brothers. Mashem Amla Nahala Nachla, just like when they're taking the name of the brother was for inheritance. Avshem Amakan Nachla. So to here when it says Yokum Hashem Achiv is going around the Nachla, and therefore that's referring to the brother, not to the son. And that again because it's talking about the Yavam, who he's the Bechor, and he's the one that takes over the Nachla of his brother. Now when it says in the pasuk V'lo Yimachar Shema, his name should not be erased. Pratlasris, that excludes that of a Saris. As we see, we're expounding each one of these words here in the pasuk, because Sheshmai Machur, the Saris, his name has already been wiped out because he can't have children. So the mitzvah of Yibum would not apply if he is if he's a Saris. Now, Amar Rava clarifies. He says, although throughout the Torah, the simple understanding of the pasuk is never removed. So although you're going to make a drasha, you're still going to keep the fidelity to the actual literal translation of the pasuk. But over here comes along Gzer Shava, as we mentioned just before, of shame and shame, which means regarding nachla, and affixing the pshati legamri, and you are totally uprooted from the simple understanding of the pasuk, because Rashi said you don't have to call his son after his brother who passed away, which Rashi says that's just something he learned from his teacher. It's not obvious, it's not evident. You can still say you'll have Pashim Shad, you have to call it after the name of the mess. Rashi's saying that no, his Messiah was that this Gezer Shava totally uproots it from the simple understanding, and it's not going on the son of the mess, of the brother of the mess, but rather it's going on the Yavam himself. Now says the Gemara has a question, says, wait a second. V'ila Gezer Shava. If not for the Gezer Shava, you're telling me how I would have said shame when it says that Yokum Hashem Achiv. It means Shem Mamish, it means literally the name of the departed brother, but Laman Kamaz Rachmana. To whom is the Torah addressing when it's warning you and saying, make sure you name him after the brother who passed away on the children, as the Gemara explains. If you tell me Li Yavam, that the Torah is telling the Yavam, okay, the son that's going to be born to you, I want you to name him after your departed brother, well, the reading doesn't make sense then. Yavam Hashem Achicha Mivayle. If the Torah is talking to the Yavam, say you should establish the name of your brother. He should take the place. It shouldn't read Shem Achiv, his brother. We're talking to you, your brother. And Ila Beidina. And if you're telling me that Hashem, the Torah, is addressing the courts regarding this mitzvah of calling the name of the son after his mother's first husband, then Yakum Hashem Achi Aviv Mibayle. Then it should say that he should take the place of his father's brother, because it's talking to the courts, telling the courts that it's going to be his father's brother. So rather, as Rashi explains, obviously, the pasuk must be talking about the Yokum Hashem Achiv is regarding the mitzvah of Yibum, and it's regarding the Yavam. And the Torah is talking to the Bezdin, telling them that the Yavam should take the place of the departed brother's Nachla. So essentially the Gemara's question is, what are you telling me that because of the Gzer Shava, it's uprooting the simple pshat of the pasuk, which is to name the child after the name of his, not his departed father, but after the original father, this Yavam's brother. What's the Havamina? The translation of the pasuk, it doesn't tolerate that translation, because who are you talking to? Either one, it doesn't make sense. Should either be to Achi Aviv or should be to Achicha. So the Gemara says, no. I have a way of saying it, how it would be possible that simple translations would tolerate this simple translation. Because maybe this is what the Torah is telling to the courts. Yavam, tell the Yavam that Yakum, that his son should take the place al Shem Achiv, on his brother's name of the Yavam. Meaning that maybe all the mitzvah of Yibum, the Torah is telling to the courts that they should tell them to warn the Yavam to have do Yibum to the Yavama, and that the son that's born to him should take the place al Shem Achiv, Hames. So it's Hashem, it's the Torah talking to the Bezdin that they should make sure to tell the Yavam that Yakum al Shem Achiv. Because really, it's talking to the Bezdin, Shei Achi Aviv, because it's not talking to, no, it's telling the courts to tell him. So therefore, that's what I would have thought simply translated. Ella, but also Gzer Shava fix legamri. That's what we say. The Gzer Shava comes along and totally uproots and says, no, there is no such halach of naming the baby after the uncle, after the father's brother who passed without having children, there is no such halacha. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back really to the primary halacha, why we brought in this brisa, which was the halacha about Mishnah. We said in the Mishnah, mitzvah b'godel liyabim, and we learned it out from the pasuk of Bahaya B'char, which tells us, according to the midrashic interpretation, going back in the previous pasuk, that the mitzvah of yibum is with the firstborn. Says the Gemara, Hashda Amid Kra b'godel. Said, now that they tell me that the pasuk is telling you that yibum should be done with the oldest brother, so Ema maybe say b'char, specifically only the firstborn is the Torah telling you liyabim could do yibum, but pashut lo liyabim, but someone who's non-firstborn should never be able to do yibum, whether there's a firstborn or not. So why are you telling me that there's a possibility, like it's a mitzvah b'god liyabim, but that other brothers could do yibum? Maybe only the firstborn could do yibum. So the Gemara, no, the Gemara has a very nice raya. If that would be the case, that a pashut means someone who is not a special, unique firstborn. If you're going to tell me that he can't even do yibum, so then as we mentioned, is one of the arayas of if you weren't around at the brother at the same time. The maid Rahman Torah tells you no, there's no mitzvah yibum. Lamali, why would you need to have a maid for that? What do you mean? That he's not the bachar. Obviously, he's obviously born after one of his brothers already passed away. From das is gishpar that you could infer that obviously you don't have to be the firstborn, but that's going to be excluded. But that's a raya, that's a proof that it doesn't have to be a firstborn. Okay, but Parach Avachi says maybe it's not true. How is that not true? He says, but I could tell you that we excluded Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai because L'Mu'uti Bukhra De'ima. Let's say this boy, this baby that was born, he was the firstborn of his mother. And he was that paternal brother who he was born after his paternal brother passed away. So maybe you have to be Bukhar. How could you be Bukhar and need to exclude Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai? I'll tell you, he's a Bukhar from his mother. It was his mother's first child, not his father's first child, obviously, because his father already had a son that passed away without any children before this guy was even born. And that's the case of Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai. But that's not a difficulty because that's a Bukhar from the father he's not. But Bukhar from the mother he could be. So maybe Taka has to be Bukhar. And because any type of Bukhar, so they want to know it. You can't give me such a shot. Because the Yibam Menachal Tal Rahman, we just pointed out before that the mitzvah of Yibam is dependent on patrilineal, which is the same father, because it depends on the Nachla, on the inheritance. V'Nachla min ha'av v'lo min ha'em. And Nachla depends on being from the same father and not from the same mother. And therefore, obviously, if the pasuk says V'haya B'char, the firstborn, it's the firstborn that takes a double portion that does Yibam. But the maternal brother doesn't take a double portion, and therefore he's not included. And therefore you're back to the proof. From the fact that the Torah had to exclude Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai, obviously that the B'char of the pasuk is not precise. It must mean the older brother, but not the firstborn, because then you wouldn't need a miyud for Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai. So then the Gemara says, okay, but I have a different question. The Ema maybe say that Ki'ika B'char. The Gemara has a few possible explanations to try to ask. Maybe say when there is a firstborn, says Kayin Mitzvah Yibum, that the Mitzvah Yibum is only going to be when there's a B'char. But Kileka B'char, when there's no firstborn, like this Kayin Mitzvah Yibum, then there's not going to be Mitzvah Yibum. Meaning, what does that mean? So Rashi explains the Gemara's question. In other words, maybe it is precise that it has to be a firstborn. But the Torah is telling me, if there is a firstborn, then the Mitzvah Yibum could be either with the firstborn or with a non-firstborn. Meaning, as we said, because from the fact that we're excluding Eishes Achav Shlei Ba'Lamai, obviously it doesn't have to be only with the firstborn. But that's only when there is a firstborn. But when there is no firstborn, then maybe no, there is no mitzvah yibum, and you're totally exempt from the non-firstborn. Because it's only when there is a firstborn, when there is a b'chai b'chai. Says the Gemara, no. Amar Kravi Pasuk says, Umeis achad mehem, and one of the brothers are going to die. Which Rashi says, when it says achad mehem, that would sound like even if there's only two brothers, and one of them is dying. So therefore, as the Gemara explains, Mila is kinan, in other words, doesn't the pasuk also allow that it's talking about, from the fact that it doesn't specify, the misbachar? So there's two brothers, and it could be, when it says Achad Mehem died, is that the firstborn died. And still, Rahman Torah is telling you, Liyabim Katan, that the younger brother is doing the Yibum. Aha! You see, when there's no firstborn, still, there is going to be Yibum with a non-firstborn. Not only when there is a firstborn. Which Gemara says, wait a second. The Ema, maybe you'll have to say, like based on the questioner's premise, no, maybe it's talking about the miskatan. Maybe the younger brother died. And the Torah is telling you that the firstborn should do Yibam because it said V'hay B'char. So maybe no, maybe it's not true. Maybe when there's Meis Achad Mehem, it means only if the younger brother died. And then the B'char is going to do the Yibam. How do you know to say that the B'char died and that the younger one's doing the Yibam? Says the Gemara, no, we already excluded Eishes Achshay B'lamei, as Rashi explains. In this pasuk, when we talk about that there's two brothers, and it says Meis Achad Mehem, it's from that same pasuk that we're excluding Eishes Achiv, Shalai B'lamei, if the brother was not alive at the same time as his other brother. Obviously, we're talking about where the older one died, and we don't have a firstborn over here because you tell me that if that second brother was born after, oh no, that is not valid. But obviously, it's the younger brother because you're telling me if he was so younger that he was even born after he died, well, that wouldn't work. So obviously, it's the older one who died, and the younger one is around, and therefore, again, obviously, B'char means the older, not only the firstborn, because we see explicitly that even when there's no B'char, the younger brother is going to be able to do Yibum. But has another question. Let's say another option that maybe will limit this mitzvah. Maybe say Kileke B'char. Maybe when there is no firstborn, okay. Then Kadam Katan Zachar. Then if the younger brother does it, he'll merit it. Because that ultimately, where do you learn out the halacha of that a regular brother, what we call a pasha, not a b'char, could do yibum? We learn that from the pasuk umeis achad mehem. We said if one of them dies, which again, as we mentioned just before, that we exclude eishes achav shlei b'ilami, which that sounds like that the firstborn died, because obviously we're saying that the younger brother, as long as he's not born after his brother had died already. So the Torah is telling you that okay, the non-firstborn can do yibum, but that's only because the b'char died. But maybe maybe when there is a firstborn, maybe if the younger brother is going to go for it, he's not going to merit it. No, that the pasha, the younger brother, can never do yibum. Meaning we're asking on the halacha I mentioned that says even if the gadol is there, maybe not. Maybe you should limit it to when there's no b'char, because that's where your whole source of learning it out from is from when is meis achad mehem, which is we said it was a proof when the older one died. Maybe then the young one can do it, but maybe when the older one is there, maybe the young one cannot do it. Says Gemara, no. Because Amakar, the pasuk says, Ki yesh la'achim yachtav. The pasuk of Yibam mentions when brothers are going to be living together, which huksha yeshivas achim zelazeh. That we're equating the dwelling of the brothers one with the other, which as Rashi says, means shavim liyavim. That they're going to be equal. In other words, we're not going to differentiate between when the older brother is around, when the older brother is not around. The older brothers have the same halacha, that all of them have a mitzvah Yibam in all situations. But the Gemara says, okay, wait a second. But the Ema, I'll still ask you. Maybe say, Ki ikim b'char, when there is a firstborn, then lahadar agadol. Then we're going to try to go with the older one. Meaning, what does that mean? So the way Rashi explains it is that if let's say the other brothers don't want to do yibum, let's say there's 10 brothers, and none of the brothers want to do yibum. So then we're going to go back to the oldest to force him, because the mitzvah is on him, because the mitzvah is begadol, and it's not on the other brothers. So maybe that's only when there's a b'char, then you're going to go for the oldest. But kileke b'char, but when there is no firstborn, so then the mitzvah is not on the older ones of the other brothers. Maybe then ein chayzin eis l'gadol. Maybe then we wouldn't go after the older ones, because you tell me the source is from the pasuk of b'char. A firstborn, the firstborn. Okay, the b'char, no one wants to do it. The mitzvah is on you. Shtayten posik v'hay b'char. You got to do it. I would understand when there's a b'char, but there's no b'char. And then there's just an older brother. The oldest is a sister, right? And it's not b'char. It's just the older of the brothers. So why would you say that then he has to be the one to do it? He's not a b'char. So aloma tani Abai Kashisha. Why does Abai Kashisha teach a brisa? The mitzvah gadol yabam. The mitzvah is the older one to do the yibum. Loi ratzav, he does, meaning in a way begadol means the oldest. And loi ratzav, he doesn't want to holchem etzel ha'achav hakatan. That Rashi says, but Tosfos discusses different girsoyos, is the word katan mimenu. But be that as it may, it sounds like that when it says you go to the younger brother, it means that's younger than the oldest, but he's still older than the younger ones. Which from there Rashi explains, we see that you try to go after the gadol, not necessarily the b'char, because the b'char is refusing. Then who do we go after the b'char refuses? You don't go to any of the younger ones, you go to the next in line, next in line, next in line. Now, this is the proof that you go to the gadol, that's the Gemara's question on that. Where do you get this idea from? Where's the Abai Kashisha getting this from? And then it says, if he doesn't want the chayes gadol, then you go back to the oldest. But one thing is, from the fact that it says, Rashi says, why can't you ask from where it says chayes eitzel gadol? So Rashi says, no, that's not the question from that, because that gadol could mean the b'char. Because he says if you wouldn't say this, then instead of asking from Abai Kashisha, you could ask from the Mishnah that says in Perek HaChayil, it's also le'ratza chayes eitzel gadol. So that wouldn't be a question to see that you go to any older brother. No, gadol we would say means the b'char. But the question is from the words eitzel achav katan, which Rashi translates means to say katan mimenu, but he's still not the youngest. Why are you going after him? Because you want to get the older the child is. But where do you get that from? Maybe only when there's a b'char, you go to the b'char. Where do you see this idea about going to the older brother? Says the Gemara, it's logic. Because kibuchar, just like the firstborn, which is ma b'char rasa garmali, just like the firstborn, the fact that he's the firstborn causes him to have to do the mitzvah of gadol. So to the older brother, gedulasa garmali, his age causes him also to be the obligated one. It's a svara basically, and therefore that's why Abai Kashisha says that we'll go to the one that's right beneath him, and we don't just go to the youngest brothers. But the Gemara continues to ask, Amos say. Again, the Gemara is trying to limit the permissibility of Yibum based on what the source is from the pasuk Hoy B'char. Maybe say Kimi Yab B'char. When the first one's going to do Yibum, then Lishkol Nachla. Then he should take the Nachla. Kimi Yab B'char. But if let's say a younger brother is going to do Yibum, Lishkol Nachla, he should not take the Nachla because it says in the pasuk B'char. It says B'Hoy B'char Shatele Yakum Hashem Achav Ames. He's going to take over the inheritance. But if it's not a b'char, maybe then the younger brother, even if he can do yibum, he should not get the brother's nachla. No, on Makra says the Gemara. No, the pasuk says Yakum Hashem Achav. If he takes over the name of his brother, then he's going to get the nachla. Barikam. Ultimately, this Yavam, even though he's what's called the pasha, not the b'char, he did take over his name by doing yibum to his widow, and therefore he's going to get the nachla. So the Gemara, after all this conversation, asks. So wait a second. So this that the term is calling the Yavam as the B'char, as we tintam beis. Why are you calling him B'char? As Rashi explains, you should have written Gadol, because it's not a firstborn halacha; it's the oldest brother. So why are you calling this as a B'char? So says the Gemara, you're right. L'greyasa. We're only calling him as a B'char because we want to diminish the qualification of his inheritance of his dead brother, which actually Taisa says you could have said it also as a chashibusa, as a mailam, regarding that the Yerusha does not go back at Yovel, but the Gemara says it as ligreyasa, which is, because we want to tell you that ma b'char, just like a firstborn son, ein a he doesn't take his portion of b'chayra, which is a double portion b'jo, the inheritance that's fit to come after the father passed away, kibbeh like that which the father is in possession on the day that he dies, because the pasuk says in Dvarim Chavav, whatever is found by him, now what's going to come to him. So let's say the father is going to get something that's going to come in 2 years that he's going to get something, and we know he's coming, the B'char is not going to get that, he's only going to get what he has in the time of his death. Oh, Afhai, so to the Yavam, who takes a double portion of his father's assets, because he takes his portion and the dead brother's portion, he does not take in what's going to come, as like what he does take what's already in possession. And that's why we call him B'char, only because we want to limit the inheritance that he's getting, that it should have the same halacha like a B'char. Which is like a B'char does not take B'ro Kibbeh Muchzik, so too the Yavam is not going to take B'ro Kibbeh Muchzik. But you're right, technically it could have written Gadol because it's any older brother, it's not only the firstborn, but we wanted to allude to this halacha of Nachla of the B'char, which is that same halacha of Yavam.
And even Nachla, the brother gets before the father?
The brother
of the deceased.
No, they're inheriting their father over here. The father dies. When the father dies, the old one of the sons get. So who's going to get that son's portion? If he would die, so no one's going to get it. But the Yavam who took over his nachala, he's going to get his brother's portion from the father.
Let's say the father's alive. What happens to the dead brothers?
Right. So that would go to the father. And the time it goes to his son. There's no son. Like he died without children. Go to the father. So yes, it's different Girsois actually in Rashi. What is going on? If it's going on the Chelik Achiv or Chelik Aviv, but the simple translation is going on the father's, what the son would inherit, and he's not going to get it. The Yavam is going to get his portion from the father.
And if he's a B'chayr, he would get.
Yeah, Bechar would get his own double portion, and he would get what the Yavam gets, which is another portion from the dead brother. We're just calling it Bechar because.
No, I'm saying if the dead person was the Bechar.
Oh, if the dead person Bechar, so is that Barok and Muchzik? Does the firstborn? Well, we find them in Bnei Slavcha that they wanted the Bechar, right?
Yeah.
Was it Bechar? They wanted that portion also.
So he would get two.
So whatever it would be that they would take over from his portion. So we continue with the halacha, related halacha that this Mishnah continues. If you recall, in the previous Mishnah we had mentioned the beginning of these intricate cases of yibum, of when there's two people and he had one brother and he had two brothers, and we don't know who he's engaged to and he's married to and he dies, and so he said, look, you got to do chalitza then yibum or both chalitza. But we had certain cases that said that kansu emaitziin. I said, right? We said if they kadmu b'kansu, they didn't listen, they went and they got married, so then we now can be mitzin. That theme is what we continue in this Mishnah. It's really not a Yevamos type of a Mishnah, but it's related to that theme of kadmu b'kansu emaitziin. I said, as the Mishnah says, hanitan. If someone is suspected, so the word nitan, like Rash says, is there, he's loaded up with some rumors. Ala shivcha, a word is going around that he had a relationship with a maidservant, or v'nishtachara, and then v'nishtachara, and then she was freed. So now she's like a regular Jewish woman. Or a non-Jewish woman. There's rumors going around that he had a relationship with this non-Jewish woman, and then she converted to Judaism. So now she's also a Jewish woman. So the halacha is, as we had said in those previous Mishnahs, there is a leichnas. So this halacha, he should not marry this woman because of the rumors, because they're going to say obviously those rumors were true. Because what's going on here? Why is he getting married to this woman? Obviously they had already an intimate relationship beforehand. Now, but if they got married, so that was like the halach of Kadmu B'Kanzu. We said that we're not going to remove her from his hand. But Hanita Naleishas Ish. If let's say there's rumors regarding a married woman, extra marital affair, and the courts remove her mitachas yadai from her husband because of this man who made her forbidden on her husband, and now he goes ahead and he marries her. Even if he marries her, Yaitzi, we remove her. Because as Rashi says, this is actually a biblical halacha that she's forbidden to the boil. The boil is the man that she had the affair with. The pasuk says in Midbar, hey, v'nitma 2 times. What's v'nitma 2 times? She's tummy to her husband. What's 2 times? So what's called echel abal v'echel boil, as the Gemara says in Seidah Chavavadayim, she's forbidden to her husband, and she's forbidden biblically to get married to the man that she had this forbidden relationship with.
But it's a hit that's a shiur thing, or this is just a woman?
Right. So we'll see that exactly. We're gonna see that. That's gonna be discussed in the Gemara. Now the Gemara makes a deal. Now you told me that if a woman was not Jewish, and there's rumors between this man and this not Jewish co-worker, and then poof, she becomes Jewish, she converts, and then he goes ahead and he marries her. So he said, no, first of all, don't get married to her because it's going to substantiate all the rumors that are going on. If you did, now, it sounds like it sounds like that ultimately she will be considered as a convert, even though she didn't do it for Judaism, obviously. Obviously she did it because she wanted to marry this man, which this is obviously one of the bigger, complicated questions that come up regarding assimilation. And then, okay, I'll convert, whatever. It sounds like that, even though she's only doing it because she wants to marry this guy, it's like, I'm Jewish, I can't do this, it's not going to be good, whatever. It's like, don't worry, I'll become Jewish. Sounds like that, even though we tell them, don't marry her, and if they did, we don't remove them, but it sounds like she is a Gieris. But it says, that seems to be contradicting the following Brisa. Brisa says, Echad Ishin is Guy L'Shem Isha. Let's say a man is converting because there's a Jewish girl he met in college, and he wants to marry her. She's like, I'm sorry, we're very traditional, and I can't marry a non-Jewish man. He's like, don't worry, I'll convert. Or the other way around. Let's say there was a Jewish man, and she really fell in love with him, and then she's like, let's get married. He's like, I'm sorry, you're not Jewish. He's like, don't worry, I'll convert to Judaism. And so too, let's say someone wants to be part of royalty, and those are Jews. And he's like, okay, I want to be part of the club. So he wants to convert. Or the Shemavdi Shlema, which they were very wealthy and high authority figures, the slaves of Shlema, and someone's converting to be part of this club, Einam Geir. The Reb Nechemia says, no, they're not considered as Geir. Why? Reb Nechemia said, Echad Geiri Arayas, which are converted because of lions. That's, for example, like the Kutim. Well known that the Kutim, they were, the Pasuk says in Sefer Malachim and Malachim Beis, that Hashem sent lions. They were the ones that the Assyrian king came and took the place of the 10 tribes that were exiled, and the Kutim were brought in to take over that place, with their from place of Kut. And they were afraid of the lions that were devouring them, so they converted, like it says over there, by the Gullus of the Shomron, which was the 10 tribes. And so they only converted because they were afraid of the lions. And the Echad Geri Chalaymis, so too, let's say someone converts because the Bala Chalaymis, the in his dream, he keeps saying, convert, become Jewish. And he's like, I can't anymore, I'm getting this dream every night. So he goes and converts because of the dreams. Oh, the Echad Geri Mordechai Esther. Or the converts in the times of Mordechai Esther, like it says in the end of the Megillah, many of the people of the land, they became Jewish. Again, they only did it because they were afraid about the Jews that were taking power. So it says, Reb Nechemia, all these categories that we spoke about, they're not Gerim. Until they convert in today's times. So the Gemara says, what? I really think that that means only in today's times? What? All those who converted before today were not Gerim. For example, Nevazradin Harasha, who the Gemara tells in Gittin that he converted, and many different cases of converts, famous converts, what they weren't converts because it wasn't Bisman Hazeh, it was in the olden times. So the Gemara said, no, Elam rather means to say Kibisman Hazeh, like today's times, meaning that the Jews are not on the top anymore. That they're not doing it because they want to become part of the royalty, part of the authoritative ruling classes. That's the only way it's going to work. But it can't be that they're doing it because they just want to be part of something greater. So therefore the difficulty is, this woman is doing it l'shum ish. She's only converting because she wants to marry this Jewish man. I thought that's not considered a valid conversion. Forget about the fact of them getting married. So Hit Ma'allah says, no, but we learned on this that he says, Halacha does not follow like this. Halacha follows that they're all going to be considered as Gerim, even if they're doing it for ulterior motives, although Taisus brings that the Kutim we consider as not like that, because that's because they were Oivdei Zar. But generally, if someone's converting, even if it's for some ulterior motive, we will consider them as valid Gerim. So that's why in the Halacha Mishnah, she's a Geyeris, but don't marry her because it's going to substantiate the rumors that was going on between the two of them. But then the Gemara says, if that's the case, that she is a Geyeris, so look at Chilanami. The Gemara doesn't know yet what we're about to say, that, so go ahead, so why can't he marry her? Why are you saying B'lo Yichnes? She's a full-fledged Jewess. Says Yevamos Daf, because the Amr Ravasi says, according to Pasuk in Mishlei, the reasoning of the Mishnah is because, like it says, Haser memcha ikshus peh, remove from yourself the twisting of the mouth, v'lazus svasayim v'gomer, and the different words of the lips, etc., which the ends the pasuk of the harchik mimecha, take that far away from yourself. Meaning, because if you're going to marry this woman, it's going to substantiate the first, and people are going to start talking. Midat, and under the platz, that guy, So that you're not supposed to substantiate. That's the reason why he shouldn't marry her. Now, Tais says interesting from the Ri, that if let's say there were rumors about a guy with a single girl, there you're not machmer, not to marry her because of people are gonna be speaking rumors, because it's to the contrary. It's a mitzvah to marry her. Because by a nusa, by a woman that he raped, the pasuk says v'leisi liisha, that he should marry her. So a single girl, if there's rumors about you and her, actually marry her because you messed her up. So actually, then that we don't say don't marry her, because to the contrary, then actually it's a mitzvah to marry her. But again, in general, a woman that there's no mitzvah because she's whatever Geiris or whatever the situation, a married woman, whatever, then for sure we don't say that it's that you shouldn't get married to such a woman. Now, related to the discussion that we said regarding the Gerim, what type of game we accept. So talking about within the Brisa, it says Imakav and Gerim the Mashiach. In the days of Mashiach, we're not going to accept Gerim. And again, it's the same idea because of course the Jews are on top of the world then, and everyone's going to come around. They said Tzish Peit, Similarly, Gerim, they didn't accept converts Lebimei David for Lebimei Shloimo, because at those times, David and Shlomo, they were kings of the world. Taisa does ask, there seem to be certain exceptions, that the war game, Ita Hagiti, the daughter of Paro in the days of Shlomo, says that's not difficult, because the whole reason is because of Shulchan Malachim. They didn't need it. They were wealthy and affluent themselves. So therefore that wasn't a difficulty. He says, what do you do with the Maisa by the Gevanim days of David that they add on Gerim onto the Jewish people 150,000? Says Taisus that they were Magar on their own. And he says that's what happened with Mordechai Esther. Didn't we just say Mordechai Esther cannot be Mikal Gerim? So what does the Megillah Esther say? I thought you're not accepting Gerim during the days of Mordechai Esther. No, they did on their own, and that's not that they accepted them. But in times of when the Jewish people are on the top, we don't accept Gerim because that's being done for ulterior motives. And Amar Rebbe Lazar is the Girsa Micro. What's the pasuk that indicates this? A pasuk in Yeshaya. The way the Gemara is interpreting the pasuk is Hein Gur Yagur, meaning if someone's coming to be Magayer, he has to be dwelling Efes Me'oisi, meaning when I'm not there, says Hashem. Then they're Magayer, which is like Bizman Hazeh, when the Jewish people are, there's anti-Semitism everywhere, the Jews are on the bottom, always chased and always near them. Migar Itach, who dwelled with you in your poverty? Alayich Yipol, his portion's gonna fall with you in the world to come. That's the type of a person that the Geiris helps. But all those types of categories, that doesn't help to become a Ger. Now going back to the Seif of the Mishnah said, Hanitan al Eshes Ish, if someone has rumors that he had a relation with a married woman, then the halacha is that even if he marries her, after, let's say, the husband got rid of her, the halacha is Yoitzi, he has to release her. He cannot be married to this woman. Now, the Gemara qualifies importantly how this halacha is, that Amar Rav. Rav says, just that we learned in the Mishnah, that he has to remove this suspected woman that he had married, is only ube edim, like someone mentioned. If edim come regarding the first rumor and they say, hello, we saw him being mazana with her. So then is where the halacha is going to be, even if he marries her after she subsequently got divorced from her first husband, we remove her. Now, Rav Sheshes is on this comment of Rav. Rav Sheshes says, Amina, I say, Kinai Meshachav Rav. When Rav was dozing off and sleeping, Amalai Shmaita, he says his teaching that the halacha of Mishnah is only when there's Eidim. Because the Tanya, the Brisa refutes him. The Brisa says, Hanitin Aleishas Ish, if there's rumors on the man regarding a married woman, so let's say Ruvain, there's rumors about him and Dinah, the wife of Shimon. V'yitzi'uhu al yadai. And Shimon goes and divorces Dinah, and then Nachshain, someone else, gets married to this woman. Then this Garshu metachas yedei achar. Now she gets divorced from Nachshain. This woman is not really such a stable woman. So then, in Kanas, if Reuven now marries her, that woman that he had rumors when she was still married to Shimon, who then Shimon divorced and she got married to Nachshain, and now this Reuven goes back and he marries this woman, then says the Brisa lo yaitzi. He's not going to have to divorce this woman. So the Gemara says, wait a second. What is this case talking about? If there were witnesses who came to court and says, we have evidence that we saw that this man, Reuben, was Mazana, he had an extramarital affair with the wife of Shimon. So even if, let's say, there's another man, Nachshon, who got married in between, my hava, who cares? She's forbidden forever from the Torah. So who cares that she got married to someone else in between? Elalav, rather, obviously the Brisa is talking about the Lake Hayden. There's no witnesses. People know, people hear, people say, people live, but no, ultimately never got caught. There was never two witnesses who said, we saw them being Mazan. Oh, okay. So it's only when another person came in between and stopped the rumors simply because she was married to another man now, to this Nachshon. So it sounds like B'Holav Hochi, but if not for that, if only with rumors, now with Adam, if Nachshon had not married this Dinah, then Mavkinan, we would remove if Reuben would go and marry this wife of Shimon. So that refutes Rav. Rav told me that it's only with Adam, you see clearly, even with just rumors, we would remove if there wasn't another man who was in between married to this woman. So Rav would tell you no. Then the same thing would be that even if there was no other man who went and interrupted the rumor, and actually Reuben went straight away from Shimon, from the Bezdin, that Shimon's divorcing down the block, he's waiting in the chapel, and Reuben gets married to this woman who was divorced by her first husband because of her fear. Even then, says Rav, only if there's witnesses would you remove her from Reuben, but But if there's no witnesses, no, we would not remove her because there's no Edom, the way Rav said. So why does the Brisa say that it's only when there's another man in between, we're not going to take her away? So says Rav Hachikama. The Brisa is coming to tell you a chiddush in this halacha itself. Meaning, the chiddush is the other way. Even though another man came along and stopped the koil, the rumor stopped because she's married to some other guy now, still the chiddush is on initially he should not marry her. Like we said, that im konas, if he marries her, then yes, but the not. But it's not telling us that of the other way around, that you would have to be moitzi if there was no other man. No, even if he married her straight without another man, we would not remove. The chiddush is, but that even like even if there is another man, lo yichnes. But the halacha of moitzin would be even if there was no other man. Because like Rav said, the only way we take her away from him is that we have Edom. If it's just rumors alone would not be sufficient to remove a woman, even that he had rumors with her as a married woman, to remove her from this rumor. So the Gemara says Meisvei. The Gemara asks from the following Brisa. The Brisa says, where did we say this? That if the one, the halacha in our Mishnah, that if the one who had rumors about him marries this ex-married woman, that he has to divorce her, says the Brisa makes an important qualification. The Brisa says this is only talking about Kishain Laban, when she doesn't have any children from the first husband. Then, if the one who had the rumors about would have to, if he subsequently married her, would have to divorce her. But if, let's say, she had children from her first husband, from this Shimon, then loiteitze. Then if Reuben ultimately did marry her, we don't tell him to have to divorce her, because what's going to happen is, if we're going to say we're going to force this Reuben, who's the one that there were rumors about him and her when she was married to Shimon, to have to divorce her, you're substantiating the earlier rumors, and now we're going to have the children as questionable mamzer. Because people are going to say, okay, so obviously something was going on over here for all these years, the rumors going on, because you see the courts making divorce her. So that means to say this Reuben and this Yankel and Shmuel that are the sons, so we don't know if this is the sons of the first husband. It might be the sons of that second guy. Because you see the courts made him divorce her, so we don't want that to happen. Because we don't have any evidence. So therefore we say then don't divorce her because of this situation. Now, it says the Bryce and the Bo ate the Tullah. But let's say witnesses come along and say, hey, we actually saw this guy being mezana with this woman. And even if there's many sons, we still make him divorce her because we don't care if people are going to say that I'm Zayim or not, but we have to make him divorce her because ultimately it's Isla It's a Dairai, so he's not be married to her. But one thing says the Gemara, which as Rashi explains, obviously, Ein Labanim, when there's no children, obviously we're telling you that we're going to make him divorce even without Edom. Because that's what the Bryce was saying. The Bryce saying, if there are Edom, then even Yesh Labanim Teitze. Sounds like when there's no Edom, then only by Ein Labanim Teitze. Wait a second, Rav said you're never going to take her away unless there's Edom. You see, as long as Ein Labanim, you're going to make him divorce this woman. That refutes Rav. So the Gemara says, you're right. Rav Mukil al-Masnitin, Rav, when he said that you have to have Edom, he explains our Mishnah, V'yesh Labanim. The Mishnah is talking about where there are sons from the first marriage. And that's why Rav said, V'yesh Edom. That's why he said it has to have Edom, because it's talking about where there's children, like the Brisa said. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Why did Rav have to explain the Mishnah? That there are children, and that there are witnesses. Oh, and so the reason is because the Ike Edom Afkinan, because there are witnesses, therefore you have to make him remove her. But if there was but if there is no witness, he would not make her remove because there are children. Look, just say he's talking about that there are no children, and even if there's no witnesses. Why do you have to tell me that there must be witnesses? Because there's children. Just say there's no children, and then you don't need witnesses, as the Pashup Shad in the Mishnah is talking about, that it's just rumors. So my Rabbi says, no, Masnin Kashise, he says the wording of the Mishnah, Rav found difficult. Because Ma'ir the Tani Haitzi Uha. Why did the Mishnah say the wording that they took her out? Listni Haitzi Ah, that he took her out. Ella, rather, kol haitziuha, who's they took her out? Meaning it's talking about the married woman. The words were in the Mishnah, there's rumors with a man with a married woman, and then they took her away from the first husband. So although the man that there's rumors with had married her, yoitzi. Why say haitziuha? Haitziuha sounds like bebezdin. Bebezdin be'edim with the mafki. And we know the courts only remove a woman from her first husband only with edim. Like Rashi explains, a woman's not forbidden to her husband because of rumors. So therefore Rav had to come along and say, that specifically our Mishnah says that we're going to have to make him divorce, or if he subsequently marries this woman that he had rumors with, because there were edim. But without edim, since that there's children, then no. How does he know that it's talking about edim? Because it's saying that the courts went and removed her. The courts only remove when there's edim. And therefore, that's why he's saying it with the case of yesh labanim and yesh edim. But if there was no edim, then since yesh labanim, which is exactly like the brisa, we would not make him divorce her. That's one approach. Or if you want, you could say another approach. That actually, no, even without children, Rav holds that you're not going to make him divorce her even without witnesses. But Hani Masniyasin, now what do we do with all these brises that recorded that said that he has to divorce her if Ein Labanim? That's Rabbi. That's going like Rabbi who he makes, yes, a woman be released from her husband, even without Edom. The courts will make him divorce her just with rumors. Where do we find this? And again, he's not going like Rabbi. And our Mishnah is not like that, and therefore he could disagree. But those brises are like Rabbi, because time like learn the brisa. Roichel is a peddler who sells spices, fragrances to women to wear as perfume. So let's say he's yotzi, he's coming out of the house, and the husband comes home, and he finds his wife, v'isha chigeres besina, and his wife is putting on these small types of pants, which like a girdle that women wear for modesty purposes, and she's putting it on now. So Amar Rebbe says, since there's something very disgusting going on over here, because a woman generally doesn't take it off unless she's being intimate, and why is she putting it on right now? So because of that, it's a teitze. So therefore, what does teitze actually mean? So the simple understanding of our Gemara is that she has to be removed from her first husband, and that's what we're trying to bring a raya from Rebbe. Actually, teitze means from Bein Tam. It actually means teitze min haroichel in this like. It actually means to say that she has to leave if she got married to that, even though there's no rumors. Meaning with this mechur hadavar would tell us that she can't be married to a peddler. But al kapon, the simple understanding is that the Gemara is trying to bring a raya that you see Rebbe would require her to be divorced from her husband, even though we don't have any edim. It's if mechur hadavar. So let's say let's say the husband comes home and he sees the peddler leaving, and he comes into the bedroom and he sees that there's spittle above the bed on the canopy that they have over the bed, and he sees spittle on the underside of it. So Amar Rebbe says, since this is disgusting, because who spits above, projecting it up? It's only if someone's laying on the bed with their face towards the top. So obviously that this woman was mezana, and during Tashmish, she coughed up, and that's why there's spittle over here on the underside of the canopy. So Teisei, so she has to leave this union. Again, you all the same theme that you see Rebbe is chayshish even without Edim to make a woman get divorced. As you continue to have let's say the husband comes home and he finds min olam hafuchim tachas amita. He finds shoes turned upside down beneath the bed. So the opening of the shoes is towards the bottom. That's most definitely some other man's shoes, which were turned upside down so that the one who sees it should not recognize it. It doesn't look like his shoes because you just see the sole. Rebbe says, since this is also, there's something disgusting going on over here, so he has to divorce his wife. And again, he's the man of the brises, which Rav disagrees, and he explains our Mishnah not like Rebbe. So it's not a contradiction of Rav. Rav could explain even by Ein Lebanim, we're going to say that the halacha is going to be that you're not going to be released without Edim. It's only Rebbe who holds even without Edim we make her get divorced. But the Gemara asks a technical question. You tell me when the shoes when the shoes are upside down, so you're suspecting that it was the Reichel, let's see the manenu. What do you mean? Turn the right side up, see whose shoes they are. The rather says the Gemara, no mokum minal mafuchim. It's just the place of where the shoes were turned upside down. Tachas amit. In other words, you could tell that when they were in the earth, they had earth floors. You could tell from indentation that the shoes were upside down beneath the bed, and that's Amar Rebbe says since it's discussing that he has to divorce them. Now the Gemara concludes and says that the halacha follows like Rav, who he says that no, we don't substantiate a rumor without witnesses. So if there's no witnesses, we don't make her get divorced. But halacha follows like Rebbe, who says no, we are concerned for rumors. So the Gemara says kasha halacha. That seems to be a contradiction. So the Gemara like kasha not difficulty. Depends. Halabakala the pasuk. If there's another rumor coming out saying that those first rumors are false, those are lies, so the rumors stop. So then it's one way. And halabakala delay pasuk. The other one is talking about when the rumors don't stop, as the Gemara explains. Kala delay pasuk, when the rumors don't stop. So then, even though there's no witnesses, that's kirebi. The rumors are going around all over town. They're talking. Rumors are not stopping. Then we say, okay, you got to divorce her. Kala the pasuk. But if it's rumors that do stop, then only if the ikke edim, then if there's witnesses, only then will we say kirav that we won't have to. Meaning, then we're going to say like Rav. I mean, Taisa says Rav himself holds doesn't make them the rumors stop or the rumors don't stop. He says only when there's Eidim. But we're saying if the rumors stop, then only if there's Eidim, then we're going to say, like Rav, which is that then we're going to make her then we'll make her divorce. Again, meaning it has to have Eidim to substantiate and make her get divorced. So the Gemara says, this day tell me if the rumors don't stop, then we paskin like Rebbe, even if there's no Eidim, we make him get the divorce. Ad kama, how long does it mean rumors don't stop? So my says, my mother told me, do me the masa, the suspicions in the city is doing a palga. It's a day and a half. If for a day and a half straight they're talking, then it's considered a rumor that didn't stop. Now, but we didn't say this that it didn't have any stops in between. But if it didn't go a day and a half straight, then that's considered that it did stop. Moreover, we didn't say to qualify that this psak is elad pasek machmas yira, meaning this that the interruption that we're saying it's that it did stop and that it's not going to be a full-fledged rumor is only the pasek machmas yira, that it didn't stop because people were afraid of a pasek machmas yira. But let's say people stopped the rumor because they were afraid of the backlash, then machmas yira. Then it's only because of the fear. Again, that would still be considered a rumor that didn't stop because they only stopped because they're afraid, they're intimidated from that powerful family. Moreover, we didn't say to qualify that it didn't stop, only if there's no enemies. But let's say that family, that guy that there's rumors about, he has enemies. Well, then it's just his enemies that spread the rumors. So the fact that it went for a day and a half wouldn't tell us that for sure this happened, that he would have to divorce his wife, because the enemies, they're spreading blogs or whatever. That's not a raya, and therefore that wouldn't necessitate. So there's certain qualifications regarding what we consider a rumor that doesn't stop. A rumor that doesn't stop, yes, we would have to divorce, but again, there's certain qualification. What's considered that it didn't stop, how long, and if did it stop in between, and why it did stop in between, and even if it didn't, if there's enemies, then it wouldn't be considered as a cult like possible anytime.